Morning folks, time for your Monday morning weight loss motivation talk. A couple of little bits, I might repeat myself a bit, but I guess that's the point. Actually, that's funny enough, that's one of the points that I'm going to talk about today really. I'm going to talk about two things. I'll talk about consistency, and I'm going to talk about kind of how we process information when it comes to exercise. So consistency first. What people tend to do, which I think we've been told, I'm a big fan of this whole "it's not your fault" thing, because I think you're relying on experts like myself and like people, fitness people, to tell you how to do things. So a lot of the time what tends to happen is if we go to a class, a group, an exercise thing, we get corrected all the time, i.e. we get told that's wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong. Well, here's another way to look at this. Most of the time, as long as it doesn't hurt, i.e. if you're doing something particularly wrong, or if you go to a dance class or like a Zumba class, for example, they don't go, that's wrong, you're doing that wrong. They just let you go and enjoy it and do what you can do, and you copy everybody else and you're consistent, and that's why those sort of things work. It's the same with any sort of exercise really, particularly the exercise side. It's about consistency and just turning up and getting there, because if you keep going, you'll eventually learn how to do things. If you go to a class and someone shouts at you for not squatting properly, even though that doesn't hurt, then there is an argument to say, a flip side to say, that actually you could that could switch you off, when actually if you just stuck at it, eventually you'd be able to move through properly, because your body, your own body. I think it's the problem, is with that is that if you're just looking to get fit and healthy, then you just need to practice certain movements, and as long as those movements don't hurt you, it's not as if you're going to go from nothing to going in and squatting 300 kilograms on your back. If you're doing bodyweight movements particularly, then technically your body should allow you to do what it can do and not allow you to do certain things. And if you're constantly getting shouted at by people like me who are trying to make you do it right, then it's going to switch you off, and then you'll drop off potentially when you've got the opportunity there just to be consistent and learn. So I think that's the first thing I'm going to say on that. There's going to be some functional fitness people who go mad at this, but who gives a shit? People are getting fatter, guys, wake up. Basically it's about that. I think it's about consistency with exercise. So try and find something that allows you or facilitates, if you want to get out and train, not that that's going to drive your weight loss, it will be the diet that does that, but it's just the consistency. That's the first thing. So whatever you're doing, be consistent and make sure that you find someone like a professional coach who's going to support you to facilitate your growth, not just so you're doing that wrong, shout and scream at you, which isn't, for most people, we don't want that. The second thing I'm going to talk about is the way we program things when it comes to particularly exercise, because what you tend to find is that, especially this time of year, weather's getting better, people thinking about summer, is people think they need to exercise more of that, but you didn't get fat because you're not exercising. Because say for example you look at a fat 3-year-old, well, you're not going to put them on a treadmill, are you? So they're not fat because they're not exercising. There's obviously something else going on. So I won't get into that side of it, but what I will say is that don't think that the damage that's been done needs to be balanced out with time. Classic is the I've been in the gym for 2 hours thing as a medal, as a badge. I train an average 40 minutes in the gym lifting weights, and I maintain a relative muscle mass, and more importantly I'm very healthy. So my internal health is very, very good, which is the stuff that's going to kill you. You can still have big muscles but eat loads of rubbish and then end up having a heart attack anyway. So don't think that's healthy. It's not necessarily. What's healthy is what's going on inside. And you can get checks for that done, like cholesterol checks, lipid profiles, heart function, things like that. Anyway, so so basically what you need to do is don't think that 2 hours in the gym is a badge of honour. It's not necessarily, and if you want to do that, fine, it's up to you. But don't think that you can then go, oh well, I'm going to, my calories are... this is the silly approach to this, because some guys will come on here and go, well, calories. Well, it is calories if you can do that. Mrs. Jones, who wants to lose 2 stone for her daughter's wedding, doesn't want to sit there going, right, okay, well, I've burnt this much. Because most people will do the muffin thing. They'll default back to, oh, hang on, I'm 800 calories short today, and they'll go to Starbucks and it's game over. So, which will sort of erode any erode any work that's been done. So don't think that you've got to go and do 2 hours worth of exercise to balance out, these bad habits you have. And what you've got to do is what works. And like I showed a client the other week how they can do the same 45-minute workout in about 3 minutes. you think, well, hang on, physics would say that's 45, that's 3, this must be better. It's not. It's not. It's not. Just because you're doing something for longer doesn't necessarily mean that it's better for you, because you can still lose weight with the right diet just doing sort of 3 to 5 minutes of worth of exercise per day. Because remember, we don't have to exercise. It's not something we should be doing. We should move and we should be able to function properly. But exerting ourselves more than is required to do our day-to-day habits is rather odd in terms of other organisms on Earth. So just remember that. So don't think that you've got to go and do an hour every time, or if you don't do an hour it's not worth it. Well, look at doing things that are 2 to 3 minutes. I mean, if you get really out of breath, I mean, I've had people like breathing as heavy as they would have done if they'd have done a 5k. Well, do you see what I mean? So it's not set in stone. So the first thing you need to be, number one, quick, I'll wrap it up. First thing, consistency. So make sure that you're consistent with whatever you do, and make sure you work with someone that facilitates consistency, that doesn't shout at you for getting it wrong, unless of course you're hurting yourself. And I'm talking here about body weight stuff. I'm talking about basics. I'm not talking to athletes who are training for purpose. That's a different conversation. So if you're needing to lift weights for certain purposes or training with any external resistance, then you do need to be careful, because your body will stop you, weights won't. They'll carry on. So if you throw on too much on a squat, trying to be the big boy, and you can't squat that much, you're going to put yourself in hospital. You could paralyze yourself. So I'm not talking about weight training here. I'm not talking about specific athletic training or resistance training. I'm talking about purely body weight, which for most people is enough. Just looking to lose weight. Second point is the way you program stuff. So don't think that you've always got to do 3 to 5 hours a week. You haven't. You've got to do enough that works for you, that gets you a result. And when it comes to a point when you need to move forward, again, if you're working with a professional coach, they can help you to move forwards progressively based on a rate that suits you. Hope that makes sense. Have a good week. For those of you guys based in Birmingham, don't forget my weight loss contest, Biggest Loser, starts in April. I'll put some details in the description box. Drop me a message, drop me an email if you need any further information. Have a good day. Speak to you later. Cheers.